Only a man who is forbidden of asking David Tepper a question at a press conference could cause the head coach to completely go do a 180 on who his quarterback was going forward, because it was the one and only Joe Person from The Athletic, who covers the Panthers, who asked Dave Canales on Sunday who his quarterback was, and Dave Canales said Bryce Young is our quarterback. 16 hours later, an epiphany, a vision, or maybe it was a phone call from David Tepper, caused Dave Canales to go the other way. It will be Andy Dalton. Joe Person from The Athletic joins us on the Adam Gold Show. That was as accurate as I could be, I think, and I've removed you from the situation. How are you?
I'm good, man. All things considered. You?
Things are good. I hope Tuesdays are normally an off day. Right?
Yeah, right.
Man, I'm sorry it's getting in the way of, Joe Person family time. All right, so you had an inkling, because I saw you on Twitter during the game on Sunday. You had intimated that Dave Canales was going to lose the locker room if he did not replace Bryce Young at quarterback with Andy Dalton. So walk me through your thinking there, because that was middle of the game during the loss to the Chargers.
Yeah, so a couple things. That same tweet mentioned that Canales lose the locker room, Tapper lose the fan base, and Bryce Young lose more confidence.
Right.
And I think all three things were playing out before our eyes Sunday. We had people with bags over their heads in the stadium, people chanting, "Sell the team, Tepper," booing, of course. And then we saw Adam Thielen in the third quarter have a very, pretty big outburst of frustration on a play when he was running wide open as presumably the primary receiver, and instead of staying in the pocket, which was a fine pocket, Bryce takes off to his left, Joey Bosa sacks him, Adam Thielen gets very upset. Said all the right things publicly after the game, but look, like, this is, although in one of his quotes, you kind of, read the tea leaves, but, he just talked about, like, hey, I'm an older player. I don't have much time left. I let my emotions get the best of me. Well, Deontay Johnson, who we know does not suffer fools when he thinks he has a quarterback that's not throwing to him enough. After the game, I asked him, were you surprised at the lack of downfield throws? And he said, we all were. He said, but we don't call the plays.
Right.
And so I think if they're saying these kind of things publicly, you can imagine that privately it was getting to be close to untenable. And again, it'd be one thing. It's like, oh, one play, Bryce didn't see me wide open. But this has looked like an amateur hour in terms of a passing offense these first 2 weeks, and really dating back to last year, right? But we were thinking there'd be a second-year bump. They got more weapons. They got more protection. And again, the pocket's been good.
Yeah.
And Bryce was regressing and going the wrong direction. And I didn't think it'd come this quickly, man. But here we are. I was sort of thinking week 4, if it continued to look like this. But David Tepper is not a patient man.
So Joe Person from The Athletic, at Joseph Person on Twitter. Dave Canales, and I know he said my first job is to win games. No, it's not. His first job, the reason he was brought here, the reason he said he took the job was to help Bryce Young. It was his main mission going into this season was to turn Bryce Young into the quarterback they thought they were drafting number 1 overall prior to last year. It is hard for me to believe that after 2 weeks, the way it was talked about yesterday with Dave Canales didn't call it my decision. He said our decision. There was nothing said about, look, Clearly, right now, Bryce is overwhelmed. We need to get him to the point where we can get him back on the field and feeling good. Nothing was offered about that. To me, I think the Bryce Young era is over, and I'm curious what your thoughts are. Does he have any future here?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the immediate future, possibly just in terms of an injury replacement, because Andy Dalton's 36 years old
Right.
and probably prone to soft tissue injuries, if nothing else.
Right.
Just playing quarterback in the NFL. So, yeah, I mean, could they trade Bryce? I guess. And I think eventually they probably will. But right now, you'd be selling very low.
Oh yeah.
But I'm with you. Dave Canales had ample opportunity yesterday to frame this as a break, as a mental break, however you wanted to put it, and it did not. And so, these sorts of decisions, and we have, and Jonathan Jones had a nice bit on CBS Sports yesterday, and he's a former colleague of mine, as you know, and he was pointing out that teams are really more and more moving, even these highly drafted quarterbacks. And he had several examples. The one I remember is Trey Lance.
Right.
And it's just, there's not a lot of runway anymore.
No.
And if it doesn't work out, you're moving on. And you're doing so, as you know, at great cost. With the draft assets and the actual human assets, DJ Moore, that they gave up to get Bryce Young.
Yeah, we could talk. Joe Person from The Athletic is joining us here in the Adam Gold Show. We could talk about the capital that it cost to get that pick, what it's still going to cost, because the second-round pick in this upcoming draft is also going back to the Bears. We could talk about other trades that they made or did not make. And every time I think about what they could have gotten for Brian Burns 2 years prior, it gets me even more angry. And you, of course, had the information on that as well, Joe. But it's not, to me, it's not just the fact, well, you don't have to pay these guys. Some people say, well, who cares? You're not paying these quarterbacks a lot anyway. But there's a time factor. And when we look at this roster, I mean, the roster is better than it was last year, at least on the offensive side of the ball. It's clearly not better on the defensive side of the ball.
No.
Like, your best guess as to how many years before the roster can, like, logically add a good quarterback to it and be a winning football team. Because I think they need to build the roster first and then drop the quarterback in.
Yeah, I can't even believe we're having this conversation. Right. But no, I mean, can it happen quickly? Of course it can if you pick the right guy and have the right roster. Look at the Houston Texans. But this team, as you suggested, is not there. This roster pales in comparison. They have some pieces, and one of them, Derek Brown, just got hurt for the year.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what to put on a timeline. I mean, I'm stuck in Groundhog Day. This is going to be the 8th season now without playoff football here for the fans of the Panthers. I think they knew that this was going to be a rebuilding type of year.
Right.
But they wanted to see some semblance of forward progress from Bryce. I mean, that's what you and I talked about this in the preseason.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember telling you, and you and I talking about the number one issue this year is to get to the end of the season and say, we got our guy at quarterback. And they didn't even get to the end of September. And so I wouldn't venture a guess. I mean, they've set themselves back significantly.
If Andy Dalton, Joe Person, this is one of the great hypothetical conversations of all time. If Andy Dalton looks credible for the next 3 weeks, would you give him a 1-year contract extension?
Maybe. I mean, honestly, the best the offense has looked since Bryce Young arrived was with Andy Dalton running it week 3, incidentally, last year in Seattle, another West Coast trip.
Yeah.
So, and I remember saying that last year, probably on your show, that Andy Dalton gave them the best chance to win last year.
Yep.
It's like, well, okay, that's fine, but we're trying to develop a quarterback here, and we're going to play and take our lumps, and we're going to be better for it in year 2. And they got worse. And Bryce Young just, I mean, he does not look. I mean, he looks like a shell of his former Heisman Trophy winning self. And you hope for the kid's sake, because he's a good dude. He's smart and all that, but it was not fun to watch this, as I said earlier, just sort of like devolve in front of your eyes.
Well, he looks like a broken player, like not just a broken quarterback. He looks like a broken person. One of the things about Bryce coming out of Alabama was that he exuded confidence. But he has never been able to show that. He showed that a little bit last year, as much as he could, based on the performance of him and the team. He was still able to present himself as, look, we're going to get it. But man, even in training camp, we didn't see a ton of that kind of confidence. We heard a lot of platitudes more than anything else. And after 2 weeks, he just looks absolutely shattered. Is it possible, because I think it's true, but I'm not nearly as close to it as you are, is it possible that playing him last year ruined him?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that was 62 sacks takes a toll and leaves scars on anyone. And I want to circle back to some of those points you were making, because I do think, based on folks I've talked to around the building, and really some of the things Canales alluded to yesterday, really to me it was the most telling quote of his press conference, is he said, I can now, I can stand in front of this group now, and I need to demand, and I'm going to demand a certain level of passion and play style. And I was like, I don't even know if I caught it right away.
Right.
And then it was like, oh, wow. Because it's what you said. I mean, the body language is bad. The confidence is gone. Like, he threw that pick in the third quarter, I guess it was, and Sunday, and the shoulders sag. And, I mean, it's just like, it's one thing if you're a safety or a left guard and you don't really bring a lot of juice into the huddle or into the building. But, man, when your quarterback is not exuding that confidence, it's tough, and it has a contagious effect of draining the energy out of the whole building.
One more thing, and then we'll let Joe Person go. By the way, Bryce is the opposite of Baker Mayfield, who always looked the part and sounded the part of not only number one quarterback, but star. And Bryce has been the opposite of that for obvious reasons. He has had no success, so there's no way to have that unless you are incredible at acting. So this is my last thing, and I just want your opinion on this.
By the way, the complete polar opposite of Cam Newton, by the way.
Oh, well, yeah.
So,
we all are.
Yeah.
Cam is in a different galaxy.
That's right.
This is what really got me about the game. Chuba Hubbard goes in the second quarter. Chuba Hubbard goes off left tackle for 12 yards. First down of the game with 4 minutes to go in the first half. And on the next play, the coach who promised we were going to be stubborn about running the football in the preseason and the lead up emptied the backfield after their most successful play of the first half, which was a 12-yard Chuba Hubbard run, and Chuba was like imploring the sideline, let's run the ball, and then he does an empty backfield. Then Bryce drops back and throws, as you pointed out on Twitter, basically the same interception he threw on the first play against the Saints. Yeah. That, to me, is the coach's heart really in protecting Bryce with a running game, because I didn't feel like they've committed to it.
Yeah, it's a fair question. I mean, you've got to mix in some passes, right? I mean, this is a passing
right, but
league.
he emptied the backfield. Like at that point,
no, I know what you're saying, and what we heard all summer was we're going to have the run to set up the pass with play action and with bootlegs, and we're not going to have him sit just statuesque like in the pocket where he has a hard time seeing over his linemen and the oncoming pass rushers. And really that storyline, that narrative about Bryce's height and the challenges that has presented for the course of his 18 games, that's kind of been overlooked the last couple days and by me and others. And it's a big man's league. And, I've seen some stuff online that, well, maybe he would fit in the Dolphins offense because they do with when they had a healthy Tua, they were rolling the pocket out, and a lot of it was outside the pocket. And the only outside the pocket stuff we saw from the Panthers for the first 2 weeks was Bryce leaving it on his own.
Right.
And in many instances when he didn't have to.
Joe Person, you're the best, man. At Joseph Person on Twitter from The Athletic, covers the Panthers and does it expertly. We'll talk to you very soon, my friend. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good week.
You too. Joe Person from The Athletic here on The Adam Gold Show.